All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's still Moneyline with Nancy, and joining me right now is my guest, Tope Fasua, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Global Analytics. At the beginning, I did say that we will be looking at the dairy value chain, especially the milk importation, talking about imports of milk into the country. At the beginning of the program, I really gave you a background. Let me bring in Mr. Fasua right now. Mr. Fasua, thanks for joining me on the show today. Where should we start from? Let me start by asking you, at the MPC meeting, the governor answered questions. I think the first question was around milk policy, that's milk importation. And the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, was very vocal, and he was very bold to say that for the past 60 years or so, that Nigeria has been importing milk into the country, and that we cannot continue to go on that path anymore. That we spend about $1.5 billion for the importation of milk. And since that time till now, we've seen a lot of reactions. Yeah. Give me your own assessment of what he said.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think the governor is right. He sees the figures. I mean, chances are even that he's dealing with the official figures. In this country, there's always official and unofficial, and sometimes the unofficial is larger than the official. People bring in things through all sort of unofficial means, a lot of smuggling. Some people, that's their business, just to smuggle things in. And if the official figures are as dire as he's saying, perhaps the real situation on ground is worse. You know, and so if he's saying, I'm of the opinion, though, that in order for this economy to grow at the rate at which it should grow, anything food, anything basic shelter, anything textile, you know, and anything security should be done by Nigerians ourselves as much as we can. You know, so milk is just one of the things in the spectrum, and to a large extent, if it doesn't take rocket science for us to be able to process milk and preserve milk in this country, then we should go down that route. And I think that it's a good business opportunity for our people because, I mean, if you even link it with the recent discussion on Ruga or no Ruga, herding and ranching and so on, a lot of attention is being put in this space now by people who believe that they can also get involved. 2 days ago, I saw a picture in the newspapers where Southeast governors, they had a meeting and they said they are now going to invest in the cattle value chain. And the more people that get involved, the better. Let it not be a case of the usual herders of cattle alone, but every business-minded Nigerian, including government, getting involved, including state governments, getting involved and seeing what they can do to add value to this space. You know, so I think it's a way to go. There's a good opportunity here. We can't just continue to open up the system and you know, say it's not just all about liberalizing everything. There are some things that we should be ashamed that we're still importing in this country. And it's not good enough to say, for those who are criticizing because they're outside government or outside policy making, at the end of the day, this is going to get all of us. So sometimes we have to buckle up and do the needful.
Okay, I think we have the excerpt there. If my team is ready, I want us to replay that, you know, that video again, where the governor of the central bank did answer the question on milk importation in the country. Then after that, I'll come back to Mr. Fasua.
The reports either quoting me or quoting somebody in central bank saying that there are attempts to restrict effects on the importation of milk into the country is correct. It's very correct because we believe that milk is one of those products that can be produced in Nigeria today. I keep saying this, Nigeria belongs to us. When we have a policy, we want people to respect the policy of this country. We are saying that how much we spend importing milk is too high, we need to reduce it. We are saying that by doing backward integration, it helps to limit or reduce the rate of herders and farmers conflict in Nigeria. And we are determined to make milk production in Nigeria a viable economic proposition? And let's ask ourselves the question, what really does it take to produce milk? Get a cow and give the cow plenty of water to drink and let the cow eat a lot of grass, and the cow positioned in a place without roaming around, that cow gets fat and you can take milk out of it. The reason some say our cows are not producing much milk is because our cows roam around, they don't have water to drink. Under the pastoralist arrangement, you find that during rainy season they are somewhere. When the rainy season recedes and the dry or hot season comes, they begin to move from where they are. And then as they move, just like they are cows and they are not human beings, they consume whatever they find on their way. But unfortunately in that process, they create destruction to farm products and farm produce in the country. About 3.5 years ago, when the policy on the restriction of FX started, we considered including milk in the list of items that should be restricted from Forex. But we conjectured that based on the kind of sentiments that people like Nancy will show, that we should be very careful. We called in the management of the oldest milk importing company into Nigeria, WAMCO, into Central Bank in Lagos. We held at least 3 meetings with them. The IMD came with one of their ladies, and we held those meetings. We told them this would have happened, but that we decided not to allow it happen, but that we were trying to use the opportunity to appeal to them to backward integrate. Integrate backwards and begin a process of development and producing your milk in Nigeria. There are obviously 2 schemes. Either the West African milk or the milk importers acquire land and begin to graze their own cows and then fatten them and take the milk. And then, of course, they can also be complemented by the pastoralists who own their own smallholder, under a smallholder farming livestock farming arrangement. They can also get milk from them. Indeed, they could also be seen to be supporting the pastoralists, get them concentrated in a place rather than moving around, provide them facilities like water or hospitals or schools. I mean, if you are in a community, you want to enjoy the process of that community, there's nothing wrong in providing certain facilities to make those communities to blossom. Provide them with grass, even if you sell the grass to them. And the proceeds of what you get in return will be your milk to recoup your investment. Those are the kind of things that we expect companies that are importing milk into Nigeria to do. Because we can no longer continue to spend close to $1.2 to $1.5 billion importing milk into the country, an item that we can produce. And to some extent, you should help us also to reduce the rate of the header-farmer conflict. Perhaps take this journey about 3 to 3.5 years ago with us. By now, perhaps the headers and farmers conflict that we see today in Nigeria will not have been as intense as it is at this time. We would need your help at this time because we can no longer wait for you to continue to be importing this product into Nigeria, because we are convinced it can be produced in Nigeria. Nigeria belongs to us. When we have a policy, we want people to respect the policy of this country. We are saying that how much we spend importing milk is too high. We need to reduce it. We are saying that by doing backward integration, it helps to limit or reduce the rate of herders and farmers conflict in Nigeria. And we are determined to make milk production in Nigeria a viable economic proposition. And we will need to support them. And we are saying if we restrict it, or by the time we do so, if you need a loan to acquire land, we will give you loan. If you need a loan to do your artificial insemination of the cows, or you need a loan to grow your grass, in fact, you need a loan to even produce water, we will give you loan. But that you will continue to import milk into the country, I think we are getting to the end of the road. And that's basically what we discussed. And I will say, and I repeat, we are really, really getting to the end of the road. And the era of restriction of foreign exchange for the importation of milk is really coming, and will come very, very soon, and sooner than they expected.
All right, welcome back. That was Godwin Emefiele, the central bank governor, talking about why there is a need to produce milk here in the country, in case you did not get to hear him when he said that at the July MPC meeting that was just concluded a few days ago. You heard what the governor said. It's just, what does it take to produce a cow, to produce milk? Get the cow, give the cow milk, give the cow water, give the cow food, and all of that. And you saw a lot of people also criticize him.
No, I think
for that. Is it, how rational is that argument? That we really
is
need
rational.
to produce milk here in the country?
In my view, it is very, very rational. Because, look, sometimes you need statements like that to set off people thinking. The argument is part of the process. The criticism is part of the process. Of course, you know, I'm also of the opinion that, okay, fine, the CBN, you know, is taking on some fiscal roles, which at some point it must begin to think of shedding those weight. Because it seems like only the central bank is working in Nigeria. Hopefully when the new ministers come, some of these fiscal roles should be taken on by them. Some of the agreed interventions by the CBN too, I'd rather hope that they can revive the BOA and, you know, let those guys take that on their balance sheet. But that said, this is a very, very easy thing. I mean, if it takes a central bank governor to tell us, then all well and good, you know, it's what we should know. And we can't keep living like this and burying our heads in the sand and thinking, okay, fine. Most of the criticism has come from the financial sector and people who are financially minded. And those guys seem to process everything through the prism of markets and you know, foreign exchange and all of that, you know. So, but running a country and even running an economy goes beyond mere markets and foreign exchange. You have to understand the social psychology of your people. You have to understand the economic history of your country and even classic economic history. But let me let you know that the most serious issue we have on hand, and why this is very important, is the AFCFTA. The same people who are criticizing the Emefiele on this statement are also the ones who understand the need for us to join the AFCFTA, and that we even did not join on time. Now, are you going to keep on burying our heads in the sand in these regards, that ordinary milk we're importing from places like Uganda, all right? Before you know it, will be importing from Botswana, where they have a lot of cows and so on. And before you know it, then AFCA kicks in, AFCFTA kicks in properly, and it will be importing basic food items from small African countries who are repositioning. In a place like Kenya, I'm not sure they have the kind of problem we have here. So what I think should happen is a scenario where you know, business-minded people go into this issue of ranching. Already, these same people don't understand the strategic need for us to use it to reposition against the issue of cattle farmer headers clash in Nigeria. So apart from the need to reposition for AFCFTA to ensure that we're producing as much of what we need ourselves, so that we'll have to import less from fellow African countries, and that is what they are doing now. That's what those African countries are doing right now as I'm speaking to you. You know, but so apart from that, it's very important for us to ensure that you know, we get ourselves ready. You know, we get ourselves ready on all of these issues before it, you know, hits us where it hurts. Now, so that's my thinking.
How about those that say that we are not ripe right now to undertake that task? We don't have enough cows. We don't have enough grasses.
Exactly.
We don't have even enough vaccines. At the beginning of the show, I did say that our cows produce less than 2 liters
Yes,
of milk a day. In
per
the
day.
US, their cows produce 100 liters of milk a
Wow,
day.
check that out.
Yes, check that out. It's there. In Holland, produce over 50 liters of milk a day. In Denmark, I interviewed some Danish people here. Was it last year or early this year? And I also talked about the dairy value chain in there and all of that. And they made me understand that their cows don't roam around the streets.
They can't roam around,
in Denmark. They also export, they export meat, they export milk and all of that. How about for those that say that we don't have enough cows right now? You can't do that now.
That means that you need to bring, in fact, let me say this, you know, what we seem not to understand is that the breed of cows we have now, most of them are best bred for meat. You know, this one that these guys walk around with. And of course, the truth is also that the more they walk around, the more they lose body weight. And of course, the ability to produce milk. And that's why we have this 2 liters per cow thing going on. You know, it could be a lot better. So the business opportunity there is for people to bring in new breeds of cows, right? And look, I mean, we're saying that a business that you can begin to see your cash flow in a year, you can actually begin to see your cash flow in a year. So you can actually bring in new breeds that can survive in our environment and that can be basically for milk production. I was discussing this on another platform, and I think I'm a bit surprised if WAMCO Friesland, which is the owner of WAMCO, has not, you know, done any backward integration by owning large ranches in Nigeria where they can actually get the milk in. But if they didn't do that, then it's an opportunity for Nigerian companies to actually do that on their behalf. You know, so I'm saying now, it was when all this crisis started to happen that we actually started to hear that most of the states that had ranches in the past, which they allowed to go to rot. Obudu Cattle Ranch is so called because it's for ranching. Okay, so you can imagine if it was well managed, we'll still be getting from it. So it's two-pronged for me. There's a need for us to use this to counter the ongoing controversies around herding and all of that. There's also a big business opportunity which feeds into the AFCFTA, on this, the big business opportunity for people to invest in that sector. And I think, look, our people say is when you wake up, that's good morning, right? So if it takes MFLA to let everybody know that, look, this is not acceptable. And actually, I also saw that not only that, they're actually positioned some amounts for those who want to get involved in that business. We're hoping that honest business people will take advantage of that. Because that kind of tries to solve the problem. I think under 1 year, we can actually begin to get this done. This country needs to turn the corner on many issues. Like I said before, anything food, we have no excuse under the sun for us not to be able to produce our own food, from milk to solids to whatever it is we need. Before we start to talk about export, anything, clothing, those basic needs. We can't be importing our textiles from China and India and Bangladesh. We need to reposition that for government on any of those things. Anything shelter. We haven't started to see, just about 2 weeks ago, we saw in Rwanda that they were building this kind of mass housing scheme.
For their
poor.
two-bedroom flats.
You need
yes,
to begin to,
flats,
in fact, look, I'd like to see the one-bedroom flat. I'd like to see the face me, I face you that government is going to build. Look, we haven't started. I mean, if you were flying into Abuja now, you will see the increasing sprawl of ghettos. Because people have now, with vengeance, they're taking the land themselves, and maybe there's going to come a minister of federal capital and one day you start demolition, and you'll have so much to demolish because we haven't started being proactive about that problem. So anything food, shelter, clothing, and of course our security. These are employment opportunities.
National security.
Yes, national security. These are, and again, exactly like you rightly said, food, shelter, clothing, especially food, is a matter. In fact, that's the first step in national security. So it's not a case of globalization. Every country is protecting themselves. I mean, we know what's going on between U.S. and China right now. Every country is protecting themselves. We can't leave this Nigeria, our economy, open as an open sesame for anybody to walk in and do whatever it is they want. So it's high time that we should be able to produce our milk ourselves. And I think there are a few players in that sector. Government should probably be calling the WAMCOs of this world and the other guys that produce maybe cowbell,
but I think that MFLA said it at that MPC meeting, that they've tried to meet with the milk producers and appeal to them to say, let's begin to get backward integration in milk production and all of that, but that they are not bulging. And he said that I think they met them when they had put the list of 41 items or so. I think I heard that clearly at the MPC meeting. But let me say this also, because I want us to look at all the sides of the conversation. Now, for those that are having concerns about it, I've also heard people say that Emefiele is indirectly supporting Ruga.
I mean, that's actually buncombe, really.
Do you understand that the government is using Emefiele to support Ruga? What do you think?
I would...
Yes, in terms of cattle
my
headers,
view, from what I've said now, it's actually anti the Ruga thing. You get me? But I don't think this is a political statement. For me, what I see there is an opportunity for the Southeast governors and businessmen from the Southeast to set up and tap I'm just coming, to set up and tap into WAMCO and tap into whatever. And for those who can, do the powdered milk to set up, and because you know what, if the figures are correct, that's business there. It's an opportunity for governors of the Southwest to go back to those ranches. In those states where I'm from, I learned that there's even somewhere that Awolowo had built in Akunu Akoko or that area, which I never knew. So now is the time that everybody's waking up.
The Ogun State governor,
but you see, we cannot remain at that negative.
He's going to start ranching.
Exactly. We can't remain at that negative angle of things where all we do. Look, I come here. I don't support government in all of its policies. I mean, a couple of days I was here. We're discussing AMCON. Today I can see that. I mean, there's a policy on AMCON that decided to put a committee together based on the topic that you raised and all of that. So that's great. I don't support government on everything.
So government listen to me there.
Yeah, perhaps, but on this issue and on a few other issues, look, it's bang on. Let's get serious. The problem we have in this country, everybody looks at their own position. So long as it favors me, let everybody else go to blazes. It's not for me. I would think that it is actually, it works the other way around. Let us all, we are the business people. We went to school, we blow grammar, we've learned things in business schools and so on. This is a business opportunity. Let's go for it, And look, what, for those who have, the Bush family, they are ranchers, for example. And there are many, big families abroad who, what they have is ranches and farms and all of that. People have land in this country. And you know what, they actually enjoy themselves, those who do that business. So I think we're getting to that point where the awareness, it will increase, and people will be able to set up a farm for this kind of purpose anywhere in Nigeria and, make a business out of it. You see, the problem with the extant system of cattle rearing and walking on the cows around Nigeria is that it's not set up as business, all right? I keep saying this. The other day I was in a book launching which, Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate, he wasn't contesting then. That's about 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And he said that, that an average Fulani person, when he dies, is not judged on how many houses he built, but how many cattle heads he has. Now, what that tells me is that there's what we call in economics a perverse incentive, that you're keeping the cows not because of the money you want to make from it, but because you have an ego attachment, an egotistic attachment to it, that, look, I must have more cows. What that tells you is that you're going to keep having increased numbers of cows in Nigeria to a level where you will not be able to maintain them. And that's part of what's going on now, because they're going to have cows everywhere, and cows breed faster than human beings, So before you know it, you're not getting rid of them because you're not interested in selling. It's a heritage. You know what I'm saying? So if that is the case, let people come and do it as a real business. For now, if you have a cow in Nigeria, if you're a cow owner in Nigeria or you're a cattle owner in Nigeria, the current thing to do is to get all these young children to come and be the herders, and they just walk around the bush and go round and round. The cows eat free grass. Maybe once in a while, if you are the enlightened type, you inoculate them. Sometimes they go to, of course, they go into people's farms and so on, and they get fat and they have children. So you can see the rate of, the growth rate in that sector. It's not too bad because every female cow can give you like 2 children in a year or so, depending on, and then that means that you're increasing. So, but now we want people to do it as real business. We want you to set up properly while the other one is running. You can't take that way of life from them, but they also need to begin to understand that the idea of taking cows around the country, in Abuja here, in Federal Secretariat, to see them in the villa everywhere and all of that, that is not sustainable in this age and time, as much as it is their heritage. Again, of course, we also have the problem with the other Fulanis in the sub-region, in the West African sub-region, where I was reading an article by one Mariam Bello in Premium Times, where she said that the moment that Ruga thing was announced, the next thing was a lot of people, a lot of Fulanis in that sub-region started to say, wow, this is a promised land. And you know, when you look at the promised land analogy in the Bible, it's a very dangerous thing if you say, look, oh, there's a promised land that has been prepared for us in Nigeria. Our man is there, he said we should just go and set up. You know, that's very, very dangerous, which it won't work for the sake of Nigeria and for all of us. That idea will not work. We will slow down government on that. But this is another opportunity for people to stop complaining about everything, all right? And start getting involved in the business. If you know you can do the business, it's doable. If you can look at the cash flow, the business is there. People own farms already. People like Obasanjo farms should be able to own 30,000 cows, you know. Yako farm is there. All these big men, let them even start.
Yes, the Yako farms in Adama,
you know,
Yola.
so we can see
years ago.
Okay, yeah, you know, I mean,
And
there's
yes,
this Songhai idea
yeah.
too. There's this Songhai idea, which I think there's one in maybe Port Harcourt, River State, or so, and also in Kwara State. They also can get involved in that value chain. That's what we're saying.
Now, let's take a look at the other side, which is, do you think that because the central bank would restrict FX for milk importation, that there could be short-term or short to medium-term?
There could be, yes. Shortage.
Yes.
Let us be able to document that.
Could
there
should
be, there will be, but also they can get involved. See, sincerity of purpose is important in this regards. You know, there will probably be a short-term shortage of. Let's look at baby milk, right? You know, baby milk is what concerns me most. The truth is that most of us Africans are lactose intolerant. Yeah. Who are adults. You know, people don't even know. Sometimes some people don't know. The education has not got to that point. If someone didn't go to school well enough, and all, it may not understand that it's lactose intolerant. It looks for milk because they say, oh, milk has protein. It drinks milk, then it starts to go rush to the bathroom. You know, we are lactose intolerant. I, for one, now, I'm not a big fan of milk. So that's another thing that the business people must reckon with. Even in the USA, most black people are lactose intolerant. As a matter of fact, they've used it as an analogy of development to say that perhaps the reason why the whites have advanced ahead of us is because they are not lactose intolerant. So probably they're able to get that protein early enough, and why we kind of shy away from it. So, of course, it's this idea of modernity that says we must always put milk in our food and all of that. The people that need the milk the most are the children, okay? Maybe up to a certain age, maybe up to 10, 11. But I'm more interested in that baby food industry. I think that's where we should attack first, to ensure that those are children, they get that milk and they get it for cheap enough. Of course, the competition is breastfeeding, which has also been
you know
encouraged.
Why I'm laughing,
you know what
because
I'm saying?
when I asked that question, the central bank governor at the MPC meeting, I was the one that asked that question. Okay. And he reverted back to me to say that, you know, I should be interested in breastfeeding my baby more than the baby milk, you know, but
yeah.
he just...
but let us, I mean, because a lot of mothers are malnourished themselves. Yeah. If you go to the hinterland in this country, a lot of mothers are malnourished. There's no milk coming out from their breast. So the point is also that look, do you know,
naturally they may not also produce milk
I've
medically.
seen somewhere, I was in, I don't know, a long time ago, I was in one market in Penn Cinema in Lagos, where this woman was holding a child with the baby, and it was Gary that was inside. You know what I'm saying? So people are so poor in this country, they feed garlic to their babies. We haven't actually, and this is why this kind of argument is very important, because we have never actually done anything for that sector, to say specifically, are we targeting our children? When Bill Gates came here and said, invest in your children, those are the nutrition, and those are the kind of things they're talking about. That how much is a can of baby milk now? Can we have a policy to say 5,000 naira? How many people can afford 5,000 naira for a baby food? So we should be able,
for a certain brand. Some are more expensive than that.
Can you imagine? So you see, we should be thinking of crashing that price by 50%. That would be a good national goal, which everybody can plug into. Look, as I've always said, Nigeria should be run like a wartime economy. We should be having this policy, these Marshall plans, these wartime plans to target some parts of the economy, some areas of the economy. I think that this gives us an opportunity to target the issue of baby food in this country, baby milk in this country. They're the ones that need it the most. And I think that the prowess is there. I think the capacity is there. And if Central Bank is putting up money, maybe I'll even go and set up a cattle ranch myself and take some of the loans from them. Who knows?
Now, you spoke a bit earlier about the Apex Bank use of monetary policy tools to address fiscal issues. Well, because a lot of people have also come in that direction to say, oh, that the Central Bank of Nigeria is in every sector. Yes, it's in every sector. Why would you be using monetary policy to fix physical issues? And I've also heard the Central Bank many times do say that they have a development role.
They do.
Which that is. And they're also doing conventional monetary policy, especially for a developing economy such as Nigeria, that the Central Bank cannot just turn its eye away. Yeah. What would you say to those people that do not even buy this argument that the Central Bank of Nigeria is putting forward?
Well, the thing is also that, number one, it's almost natural for most central banks to delve into fiscal policy in periods of crisis. I've read enough from Paul Kruger in that regards, that it's noticed, especially in African countries, developing countries, But of course, the point is you may probably want to have a timeline at which you're going to get out of it. I'm not even sure that what they're doing is using monetary policy tools to target fiscal policy, except they're just saying the instrument of money itself, cash, to say, okay, fine, let us
take this.
Exactly. And also, industry, for me, it's just a sign of the dysfunctionality of the Nigerian economy and the need for the fiscal sector to kick in. Now, the point is, I think we're a bit lucky, that we have technocrats, quote and unquote, running the central bank. It's supposed to be a place run by technocrats and all of that, because the politicians aren't doing their work. Okay, now we're just trying to get some ministers in place and all of that. It was even as if by force to push the gentleman to bring up this list and so on. We should be hitting the ground running. More than any country in the world, this country should be running with, every sense of urgency. And that's what it should be. But when you have as we speak right now, I'm not sure the ministers have been allocated positions, so PAMSECs are running the entire show. And PAMSECs are not constitutionally enabled to take policy decision at some certain level. They are administrators. They just ensure that, okay, everybody is calm, everything is okay, is the money coming in the way it should, are we allocating as the Constitution says we should, there's a schedule to run, and that's it. But for someone to come and say, okay, let's target this policy, like, for example, Amechi was targeting rail, someone comes and say, look, let's target this agri policy on milk or rice that they did in times past. It takes that sense of urgency to understand there's a problem in that area. So, but for now, if it's the central bank that can do it, for me, is let somebody be reminding us of what we need to do in some of these sectors. So, but however, I would also still advise the central bank at the time you have to roll back. Even though I don't believe, the reason why I would kind of support the central bank on this is that I don't believe that we should be doing inflation targeting. The central bank governor in its 5-year plan did say that he's going to be targeting double-digit growth. However, he's also hoping that inflation will recede. No. If we target double-digit growth, it's also going to ramp up inflation. That's it. It goes hand in hand. But we need this growth more than we need to target inflation. We should understand economic history to the extent that, look, there's a curve you pass. As a matter of fact, I was doing my research, and I found out that in 1977, 78, 79, 80, 81, in the U.S., inflation was doing about 9, 10, 11%. And that was the Reaganomics. It was in the Reagan years. And of course, on the other side, you see that the economy also grew in that. I believe that we're at that stage in our economy where inflation will be high, but growth should be high. We should drive growth. And then, we watch how things go. There's a lot of capacity that is lying idle in this country. Too many people who are not working. When AFCFTA kicks in, all right, the big issue will be that when AFCFTA, you have to get your productivity up. Number one, you have to get that is the time we're going to need a low interest rate, because our producers will have to borrow at low interest rates, all right, in order to compete. That's why we will need low inflation, all right? Because if your local economy has high inflation economy, our goods will also not be able to compete.
Our currency
Our currency must be stable and predictable.
Yes.
Okay, at whatever level it is, you know. However, the productivity we need to get also, you can't compete in AFCFTA with 26% unemployment, with 45% youth unemployment. That is productivity you are locking in. That productivity needs to be unleashed. And that's part of what we're talking about. So here we are, discussing about milk or no milk, and someone is saying that we have to continue importing. No, it should be our shame that we're still importing milk at this age, when we know we have the population, we have the children, we have a very high, very healthy reproductive rate, population growth, which we should, and we have the malnutrition.
30% of our children are stunted.
Even in the Southwest. I've been to places in the Southwest, in Ondo State where I'm from. When you go to some of the local places, you see children almost with kwashiorkor at this age and time. And you never know that those that could be the boy that will turn Nigeria around. We have neglected them. So we need a lot of imagination. And of course, like Einstein will say, the logic will get you from point A to point B, but imagination takes you everywhere. So we need to be very imaginative about some of these issues.
It's, I don't know, because it's such a dicey situation at this point that a lot of people will say, no, should it be that for every sector that the government or the central bank wants to target, it will say, no, we are banning FX or we are restricting FX.
Well,
would you say that also for cars, for the instance that, let me just call the Nigerian innocent, to say, okay, ban FX
for car importers.
For car importers,
so
until local
Nancy,
manufacturers, I've seen
Nancy, I'm sorry, let me say this very clearly. It is what other countries have done. The U.S. still restrict by tariff right now importation of steel, and there's some places they don't want to see steel from those places. They will do anything. Donald Trump is very clear. Love him or hate him. But the man wakes up every day and says, listen, I'm all about the American people. I'm all about the American economy and all of that. And I think I respect that. Coming from such a person, it's not everything is not about populism. You understand? You have to set real goals and go for it. So in India, you can't bring in if you bring in a foreign car into India, you pay at least 100% in tariff, of the same value, even more. Because there's Mahindra, there's Tata, there's other ones. The Chinese car companies now, they're doing a lot better. By next year, you compare their cars with Toyota. And in fact, they'll be more fuel efficient, more efficient than some of the established brands. That's how countries do. Let's not deceive ourselves. All these guys that come around tell us about market-driven. Number one, we don't have a market in Nigeria. All the markets are rigged. If the markets were not rigged, we would not have AMCON and 5 trillion sitting there from 20 people, according to Muiz Banire, the chairman of AMCON. The 20 people are sitting on 70% of the money. 20. And some of them are getting themselves into government, getting into government, either as legislators or either even as ministers, as we're hearing. So we don't have a market here. So we need to understand that there's nothing too wrong if we knew where we were coming from. We should understand that our economy is not the U.S. economy. We're not European economy. We have a history. Our economic history is that we're young as a country, and that also we haven't produced anything on our own, and we need to start to produce stuff on our own. So there's absolutely nothing too wrong about that. And again, I would also say that this issue of FX restriction, it's also very interesting because I imported some equipment for a recycling plant that I'm setting up on my own. And, by the time I tried to even get official fund, they laughed at me as in, look, what's this one? You can't get official for this. I was surprised. I was like, okay, let me use this thing. Can I put Naira in my account and import at 305? At the end of the day, I had to use dumb account money, which is as good as going to the black market, to import. So that money is not actually quite accessible, that 305. It's tough for a lot of people to access that money. Most people are importing using the other rates, And maybe even the official rate for importation, maybe sometimes about 340, 350, or something like that. There are all those rates. Hopefully we'll get to the point where we would have a single rate, but there's nothing wrong in markets that people will try to make arbitrage on the market. Speculators will come into the market. what we should be targeting is a scenario where 1 naira, 2 naira margin is what people are talking about, not 20, 30, 50 naira margin. If people can get money at 305 and sell at 360 and make that much money. No, that's not what we want. So is the instrument available to central bank to say, look, we want to incentivize these people, but those of you who are doing this, go and get your money. I think it's mild, really. I think it's mild. If you went to some of the other countries that we admire, they did worse things than that. Oh, do you know what it's called? When the U.S. got its independence from Britain, part of the reason, the key reason why they fought the independence war was that Britain, as at that time the Crown, was pushing too many of their goods into the U.S. by force. And they said, no, we're not going to take this anymore. You know, we want to produce our own thing. Come on. We're still at that level. In fact, our economy, the economy then is developed than our economy now.
Wow.
University of Virginia, which you know, Thomas Jefferson, I think, was the one that built it. Imagine how long, if you went to University of Virginia now, if you went to their chapel, their main hall, you see the architectural, you know, exquisiteness of that place, built maybe sometime in 1790 or
yes.
something of that sort.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what have we achieved? And I think that's the point, that's the thing we should actually be asking ourselves. I think that some of these things, enough of all of this idea that all we want to do is wake up every morning, enjoy ourselves, tell ourselves how God has favored us and all of that, not caring whether we're making that thing that we're enjoying, waiting to grab enough money to buy the latest thing and all of that. It won't work in the long term for this country.
Okay, let's end the program with what the central bank said in its press release, I think on July 26th, the last paragraph, and I want you to end with that. It did say that we call on Nigerians to enlist in this vanguard to take our economy back from vested interests, make our country a productive economy, and create jobs for our teeming youths. When I saw that, what came to my mind is the AMCON discussion also that we had on Monday, that to take our economy back from vested interests. The 105 debtors owing over 5 trillion naira to AMCON, 20 of them sitting on over 70%. And we did say it here, was it on Monday, that the federal government cannot continue to close its eyes. And I was happy that the next day or so, I saw actions to that. We need to take back our country. And perhaps the first taking back should be economically.
Absolutely. You solve the economic problem, a lot of problems will be solved. I think that this vested interest they're talking about, the hoopla around this milk thing has been very interesting to me. You wouldn't expect that that much hoopla will come as a result of milk. But perhaps maybe there are those vested interests. CBN probably knows better who's buying what, who's doing what. But for me, I'm more of a nationalist, and I'm saying that, look, you know, we need to begin to buckle in. I'm not all about maybe banking sector, wearing a nice tie, looking good, and also making all that money and so on. We have a country to run. I'm also letting those guys know that this economy can be a lot larger than it is. I've always said that. But if you think you have money, you can have a lot more money than you have right now in this economy. I mean, we're saying an economy where South Africa's budget on education this year is our entire budget.
For the year. Yeah.
You know, it's our entire budget, and that's what the budget, and that's why they're killing our people there. The other time they beat up this other boy, the BBA guy, Tayo, I think. The other time there's a lady that went, the deputy director general.
They killed her.
You know, I think we need to take a position on that. But of course, you know, if you look at it side by side, we are still going to the embassy, we're groveling for them to give us the visa. You know, but we have something here which we're not appreciating.
And they've given Ghana, that Ghana can have access to without a visa.
We're just interested in ripping off this economy. Everybody comes with their funny idea and takes out of this economy. We need to begin to think about this economy and bring back into this economy.
All right, I think we'll leave